On the Ultimate Sports Network, I didn't want to say what I always say. Welcome back once again. I said it anyway. This is Real Boxing Talk. We're going to talk about real boxing. We have a lot of real boxing to talk about on this show. We've been riffing on a couple of things off the air, and unfortunately, you didn't get to hear this part, but the natural segue to that is what happened with the, we're going to call it the Usyk-Joshua fight now. And I think that bears repeating because the first person in that fight was Alexander Usyk, not Anthony Joshua. The person that now has 3 belts is not Anthony Joshua. The person that is not in line for the next big money fight is not Anthony Joshua. It's the other guy that most people didn't give a chance. John, if you would, let's just say that you were following what the possibilities were for this fight beforehand, set by some people here in Nevada. What were the possibilities that you saw, and how did it change from like a week before the fight until fight time?
Well, real quickly, you guys can now refer to me as Fast Eddie Respondy since I'm such a big-time gambler. I cashed out, Charles. I'm like you and me. We're brothers. I cashed out. I'm done. The thinking was, and I saw a thing on the Ring magazine where they had 21 boxing writers / experts predict the fight. 19 out of 21 took Joshua. So that tells you how, right. And we took Joshua. I will say that. We were saying that Usyk was real live, but we thought Joshua. And then the next day I did another show, and I had changed my mind and said Usyk was going to win. So I was flipping out. That's why I ended up putting money on Usyk, because I thought, you know what? I got a feeling that Usyk's he's going to be on that day, and it worked out. But that's the way it goes. Not bragging here. It was very fortunate. I was very fortunate. So it's interesting is that as the fight grew closer, and this is what Frank's talking about, instead of the odds getting closer like they usually do, they widened. You know, it was 2.5 to 1 when I put money on it. Ended up being 3.5 to 1 about 4 hours before the fight. And I went, because I was convinced by then that, and then I told Frank this, Charles, before you got here, is at the end of the first round, I went, oh my, why did I put more money on Usyk? But yeah, it was an interesting, and I really believe there's one thing that really, I think I mentioned last week is, we always get caught up in the previous fight too much. That's what always gets us. We think we know so much, and I'm really trying hard not to do that anymore. That's what I was thinking about with Manny Pacquiao and Ugas. I was thinking about Pacquiao and Thurman, and I was going, wait a minute, that was 2 years ago. Ugas is a totally different guy. He's live. He's going to win, blah, blah. And then in Usyk's case, he fought Chisora. He did not look good. He struggled. He barely beat a guy who's lost to all the big guys. Fury, he did not got beat by Fury twice. He got beat by Dillian White twice. He's tough as nails, but he can't. David Hay knocked him out. He can't beat the top guys. So you're thinking, okay, Usyk's going to beat him easy. Oh, no. Oh, no. Chisora almost won that fight. Close. Almost won it. And then you got Joshua, was still a little tentative in his last fight, but then he started to open up a little bit at the end and knock the guy out. It's like, okay, that's kind of old Joshua, not the Joshua before pre-Ruiz, but that was like a guy that was like getting his zhuzh back, you know, he was feeling himself. So then we come into the fight, and it's pretty apparent. I mean, I'm not going to jump far ahead here. I'm just going to say it was pretty apparent that for whatever reason, Joshua thinks he's going to outbox Usyk. And we were talking about that last week. It's like, I said, no, you can't outbox. It's like trying to outbox Willie Pep. It's like, you know, you don't outbox a boxer. You do your strengths against his, right, and see what happens. Said he tried to use, he's not a terrible boxer. I mean, but he's not Usyk. And he had a plan and he was sticking with it. He came in bobbing and weaving. You saw that. And you could see Josh was like, wait. Second round, he was really going, look, this is not what I sparred for. This is not what I was getting ready for. Yeah. Yes, let's reset. and he doesn't have enough depth in his game to really deal with it. And it was a master class. I'm not going to say, I don't want to put him up there too high with it because I never thought Joshua was obviously not great. I said he was good, and I'm saying he was protected. I saw Lennox Lewis said that a few days ago too. He was. We knew he was protected by Eddie Hearn. Now we also know why Eddie Hearn had a conniption fit when this fight was first on Joshua.
Right.
To his credit, he knew that this was going to be a tough one. He was moaning and groaning about it like a little girl, and I always remember going, "Oh, please." Well, I mean, that's boxing. So all the dynamics behind the scene, and I know that's what you mean, Frank, was really interesting. And then, of course, the announcers were all shocked, and some of the announcing, I don't know if you guys heard it, had me kind of going, "What? Wait a minute. What are you guys watching?
Right.
Usyk's winning this fight easy. What are you guys talking about?" So that happens. They had a robbery in the earlier part with Ricky Hatton's son, if you want to talk about that, because I wrote an article on that, and I expected 4 people to read it. Before I knew it, 3,000 people had read it. So I was really surprised by that, more than Joshua and Usyk. But all kudos to Usyk. He came in, he did what we said. I think we said if he has his A game and Joshua's a little off, he'll win. And I don't know if Joshua was necessarily off as much as he was just confused. And he didn't have enough belief in himself that he was going to say, all balls to the walls here. I'm going in. He hits me. But to sound frank, Charles, I don't think he has enough belief in his chin anymore that he wants to do all balls to the walls. And he got wobbled a couple times, and then it almost got knocked out or stopped in the last round. So his belief is there, but that's a weird way when you're a Paul Bunyan-esque type heavyweight to try to fight when you're not sure whether you can take it, your jaw can take it. So he's in a tough spot.
Well, Charles, we'll let you say it. You can say it now. There's only not one. There's only 2. Ricky. Anyway. All right. Anyhow, but we got caught up in this coming out of the bubble. We said, okay, because of what we saw last time, and when we saw these 2 together, Maloney should beat Franco.
There it is.
We came out of what we saw and what we thought we saw, and we assumed, at least I did, that it was now set in stone. Yeah, shut up. It's now set in stone that whatever happened in the first fight, the second fight, the guy was going to be in his head. So we made, and of course we don't have anything else to do. We make comparisons on who did you fight, what did you do last time, blah, 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 blah. Usyk said, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, because, well, actually, let me put it this way. You called me because something struck a nerve. What made you say, I got to pick up the phone and talk to me?
I can't remember, man. Just go ahead and spill the beans. Spill
No, I'm not. I'm not necessarily the main reason, but what in that fight made you go, there's something I got to talk to him about?
Well, it was just the point of the idea that what Joshua was going to do, and then to see Usyk just kind of come in with, as John mentioned, balls to the walls with, I got a plan and I'm gonna go through with it, and if it gets me hurt, then so be it. It just was that. And I think the other part of it too is another example of Joshua. We keep putting him on this level, man, and it's like, what the hell? I mean, he's shown you twice now that for some reason or another, he's not the champion that you think everybody thinks he is. And Wilder loses one fight, and he's the antichrist in boxing. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as that's concerned. So I think that's just it. I'm sitting there going like, it's kind of like when you watch those pound for pound lists, right? Joshua's always up there because he has all the belts. And it's like, once again, here's an example. So that's why I kind of called you like, did you see this?
It's the idea. Okay, we were, to crew people, we were talking about a lot of things when we were off the air. But as a former basketball coach, I went into most every game thinking, I have a solution to whatever they have to offer. Now, whether my solution is going to transfer to the people I'm telling them what to do, because I might be thinking some board out of the box, and they aren't prepared for that, That's one thing. But if you're able to prepare, which it looked like Usyk did, like I have a plan A that he's not going to be ready for. And if he makes an adjustment to plan A, I got a plan B to that. He might have planned for this. I'm going to give him that. As John said, he came in bobbing and weaving, and Joshua went, hold on. No. This is not the fight we're supposed to have. Stop the fight. Let's fight again next week because I don't have a prayer to stop what you're doing. Part of it is being a tactician, being a technician, understanding what you can and cannot do, and what the other guy can and cannot do. So, Charles, did it look like Usyk was like, I know you, Anthony Joshua. I've seen you, Anthony Joshua. I'm ready for whatever you have, and you're not ready for what you haven't seen from me.
Yeah, but I think part of it, too, is when you look at Usyk, you kind of say to yourself, he might know Joshua, you might have really known what Joshua was, what he thought he knew about him. But I think the other part is the factor that what he's accomplished, man. He believed in himself. You got to think this dude was a gold medalist.
Gold medalist.
Right? Yep. Gold medalist. So he's been a winner. He's undefeated. And he believed in his skills. And his skills said, I'm a better boxer than you. And it's like now, and we said this before, he was taking a risk knowing that Anthony Joshua's power could catch him at any moment. But he started going in and started taking the chances, calculating it, using that left hand a lot. That really was his, his gravy, the one that really worked for him. And then once he started winning first round, maybe second round. Then he confidence started building. I can get this dude. And granted, when the punishment came back, because you look at his eyes, I mean, he was getting tagged. But he was moving, feeling good. So I think while he did know Joshua to a point, I think he really started to believe in his skill set because he's a smaller guy, even though he's at 220, probably bigger as he ever been. Smaller guy, but he believed in what he was doing. And once he started to see the ability to use that skill set, which I was totally blown away by, I'm like, when is it going to come to a point where we see the domination we expect from Joshua, from these so-called, I won't call them inferior, but these the so-called subpar talented guys. Right. I mean, you're the champion. When you're the champion, we expect you to, okay, he might hit you a little bit. Now I'm going to turn it on, a la Floyd Mayweather and other guys. I'm going to turn it on and get you the hell out of here. But two times, Joshua has reverted back to, maybe it's the chin, as you guys mentioned, something else that we didn't expect from the champion. And I think that's where Usyk was like, last but not least, I have nothing to lose. I'm winning. I have nothing to lose. Right. You're going to take this now because I'm here. I think I can beat you. And that's what I'm doing. That's what he did.
It's funny how you can look at numbers, and you mentioned a couple things, how you can look at numbers one way and project them, and then you can use the same idea and project them another way. Usyk was 335 and 15, as an amateur fighter. So he probably saw a little bit of everything. Then 19-0 as a pro. I think I've got that right. So you're going to say, storied amateur career, he's seen a lot of things, and he's going to be ready for whatever he's going to see against anybody. That makes sense, right? We said the same thing about Lomachenko a few months ago. So you can take numbers, but what I'm saying is you can take numbers however you want, but I agree with what you're saying, that having had that kind of amateur career, right, and sticking as an amateur for a while, then going through cruiserweights, then going through heavyweights, I think he was better prepared than maybe Joshua was. John, am I off base with that?
It's interesting. You made me think of something else, and I drifted off because I thought that in a way.
I do that to people.
I think because you mentioned Lomachenko, and I thought in a way I think they did Lomachenko and Joshua similar things in the sense that they knew that, like Lomachenko, he knew that Lopez was good. Mm-hmm. He knew that. Joshua knew that Usyk was really good. Cleared out the cruiserweight division, gold medalist, blah, blah, blah. I knew it. So up here, it made them even a little more tentative, like Lomachenko. He's never fought like that. We never saw him fight like that.
You're right.
And he was like overthinking it a little bit. And then when he started to just be himself, he started to win. And he's always going to kick himself for not starting earlier. And I think Joshua was a little worried about Usyk's reputation. And then Usyk did what we were saying before. He did something he wasn't supposed to do, which went all that bobbing and weaving stuff. He was also beating Joshua to the punch. And he also, if you watched every round, he was the guy who got off first.
Right.
That's an old boxing adage. Yeah. You're setting the tone.
Right.
And he was setting the tone. And Joshua was like, wait. So he actually, what Usyk did in a sense was he reduced Joshua to where all you were hoping for if you were a Joshua fan, who's going to land a big right hand, kind of like a Wilder thing. Because you kept thinking if he hit him, he's going to hurt him or knock him out. And he hit him a few times, as Charles was saying. He bruised up here. He got hit with some shots. Did he get hit with Joshua's Sunday punch? Probably not.
Clear.
Right, but that was on plan again by Usyk. So, no, it was just, numbers can be misleading sometimes, but I think that it's also the opponent, like I said, and then you mix it all up, and that's why I love sports, because you think you have it all figured out with the numbers and the bettors. You know, they all think, it's no problem, and most of the time we're right. But then something else happens, one of those little intangibles. For a guy, we don't know what's inside here. And that's what I think Joshua's issue is right. He doesn't really know what he is anymore. He might be this big, bulky dude who had a great entrance, by the way, to the Sour Drown. I mean, that was pretty cool. I like that. But no easy way out. I mean, it actually was very fitting for what he was doing from Rocky IV. Yeah, that's the best part of the movie, actually. I've never been a big fan of Rocky IV, but I did like that scene and the way the music was used by Stallone and everything. But there was no way out for him. He had to land the bomb. And then Roy Jones was going on and on about Joshua was trying to knock out Usyk, and it was Usyk who almost knocked out Joshua. Right. So, it's just, again, real fast, it's just one of those things where you think you got it figured, and then you watch the beginning and you're like, wait a minute, what was I thinking? So it's this way we get stuck into this way of thinking when you got to think out of the box sometimes. That's the only way you look like a genius, when you get it right, and a dummy when you get it wrong. But it's one of those.
By the immortal Robert Tepper, that song anyway. I should have been a DJ. Anyhow, but it's funny how you take.
Yeah, Charles like
it should have been something other than this. But you take the numbers, and you can say, okay, I should have, and it's exactly what the point you made. Usyk uses that experience to gain more experience, more leverage. And he said Lomo took it and went, it froze himself instead of using that experience and using it and moving forward. So it's weird how it works. And you look at Joshua and you say, because Charles, this is part of what that call is, you don't remember. It's like, Usyk just got off first. Usyk just set the tone. Usyk went after it. And I don't think Joshua was expecting that. But how can you not make that change if that's who you are? How can you not say, I have to do something? And round after round, he's still behind.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like what we call a one-trick pony, though. If you're not a technician, right? You're not used to making adjustments, then you keep thinking I can overpower this guy. Sooner or later, I'm going to catch him. And I think that's what it came down to. But like you mentioned before, I just think overall they kept saying sooner or later you can get him, you can catch him. And now there were a couple of times where Joshua landed some shots, and you're like, well, if you can follow that up, maybe you can really get this dude out of here. Right? Because there were moments there were lulls in there for Usyk, and Joshua seemed to be coming on. But then a couple of times where Usyk was getting hit, he come right back, right back to that jab.
That's what great fighters do.
Yeah. He answered real well. But I guess my point of this is when you look at the whole thing, I'm just blown away by this because of the fact that the lighter that Usyk was, he was a cruiserweight. I understand the numbers, and numbers don't always work like we say, but I guess I'm not saying I'm disappointed because it happened the way it happened, but for all of the accolades and all of the hype that we've been giving Joshua, you would think, and there's nothing to take what Usyk. Usyk handled this business. Right. But with all of the hype and everybody getting ready for the combination of these great belts and the unifications, and I'm ready for Wilder, I'm ready for Fury, and you're on this level, I think people had to take a step back and go, damn, maybe he's not all we thought he was. I know I did, and I'm not saying I've been the biggest fan, but you gotta honestly go, that's twice you face guys that supposed to be inferior to you, talent-wise, size-wise. You're the man. And twice you've shown us that we don't know now. I mean, it's great. I mean, and it's not to, let's not jump into the point of punishing him for losing, right? No, that one loss and them 2 losses and now you're out of here. Not saying that, but I just think we need to say the difference between being great and being good. And I think Josh was very damn good, but he's shown us twice that we had to wait and see before we start throwing the cape back on him and giving him all of the crown, you know, from England and whatnot. Let's hold the brakes, pump the brakes, and let's let him now show us that he is ready to come back and take the mantra once again. That's all I'm saying.
Well, as we mentioned, we should probably record the pre-show because the pre-show fell right into this. So part of the pre-show was, did we overvalue the guy or did he perform to his level, John? And we won't mention what we were talking about in the pre-show, that particular person, but did we overvalue him? Have we overvalued him? Because A, he has the belts, and B, he looks the part.
I think we did. I think for the longest time, the three of us have been talking about that Joshua, like I said, he's overprotected. We don't know how good he is. There were still questions. I liked how he came back and beat Ruiz, even though he did it in a totally different way. Outboxed him. He outboxed the big, heavy-set man. He won, though. That was the point. He won. He's not recovered. I'm more convinced than ever that Ruiz fight did more than a psychological number on him. It did a real bad number on him. So I'm going to say us, but the majority of people, yes, I think they did. And in England, you know, as you saw, I mean, they love their fight. I mean, I love their passion. Talk about fanatical. They love, and it's great. I wish our football boxing fans treated our champions like they do. I mean, they know that those people are boxing fans. They know that Joshua was limited. It was quiet as a church in the first 3 rounds. You could tell the crowd was like, uh-oh. They knew that going in. They knew that because they know he has flaws. Yeah. So, but they just get so excited. It's more some of the writers, I think. I'm going to blame my brotherhood that put people up on the pedestal and then they get knocked down. You go, well, why were we so impressed by this guy? Well, we should have been impressed to a degree. Right. But then we do what Charles said. See, I would just say all I've been saying for the longest time is he's good. I wouldn't even say he's very good. He's good. I think the other guys are better than him. He's good. But he's beatable if you figure out a way to beat him. But that isn't meant to take anything away from Joshua. Right. It's just like we were saying. He can only be as good as he is. Don't get mad at him because he's not the second coming of Ali or Joe Louis or whatever the greatest heavyweights. He's never going to be in that. But yeah, okay, here's a little speculation. I don't usually like to do this. What do you think Mike Tyson would have done to Anthony Joshua? Would Mike Tyson have hesitated and waited and wondered? No, he'd have went right after him. I'm not saying he would have won. I'm saying Joshua might have landed one of those bombs, but I'm just saying that Tyson would have been super aggressive and laid it on the line and tried to get him out of there. That's Mike Tyson. Joshua has to do a few things. Joshua has to learn. Joshua has to try to change himself into George Foreman if it's possible. He's got to get a big, powerful jab that knocks people backwards, and then he's got to learn how to cut off the ring and get guys in the corner and keep them there. He couldn't keep Usyk anywhere. They only clinched like twice. I've never seen that in a heavyweight fight. That was great. He's got to – so I kind of blame his trainer here too. Maybe his trainer got wrapped up in all the hype. And his trainer should have said, wait a minute, this guy moves and does all these things. We got to be ready for this. We got to counter it. So when we get him in a corner, roll him out, push him in there, and then when he's on the ropes, then you start bombing him. Mm-hmm. So I know they're going to be talking about that now, but why weren't they talking about that before? That's like back to what the pre-thing. My coach of the Bears, what are you doing? You got these, you don't even have any plays for this kid. You're letting him get killed. It's like you know,
Charles, is it, I know we overuse this, but is it that he lacked an identity or his identity wasn't what's supposed to be? I know John has mentioned that maybe he wasn't sure about his whiskers, he wasn't sure about this. Who was Anthony Joshua in this fight? Did he know?
I mean, that's a good question. When you say did he know, you talk about did he know himself or did he know his opponent?
Did he know himself?
I mean, but he's been doing this for how long now?
Well, but like he was. Am I coming forward? Am I getting off first? What am I supposed to do in this fight in order to make it work? Am I the big banger? Am I supposed to be cutting off the ring using the jab? What am I supposed to do, and what didn't I do? From what I saw, he didn't really have an idea, or he couldn't because of what Usyk was doing.
No, I agree with that. I think that I'm not sure if he didn't have, I think he had a plan, but the plan went out the door. But I think the other part that he did not do is there were times, like I mentioned, that he had an opportunity he was hitting Usyk, you clearly was hitting him, and it appeared to be hurting him, but he never followed up. When there were times when you thought he's like, oh, wow, there was even moments even Roy Jones was going up like, oh, you know, when he hit him, hit him with a big shot, and it's like there was never a follow-up. So I'm not sure if he forgot his plan, or I think he had a plan. I'm not sure if he forgot it, but he just did not. Maybe he forgot to follow up. It was almost like, John, we mentioned before about those one-shot haymakers, right? I'm going to get this guy out here with one shot. I'm hitting so bad. I'm hitting so hard. I want to knock him to his knee. But sometimes, like anything else, there needs to be combinations. The other part, too, is it would have been nice to see Joshua go to the body, because I still think Usyk was a little soft there. You could just tell by his body shape, the way he was set up.
Yeah, right.
You know, you talk about you go to the body, then up to the head, and then knock him down that way. But I will agree with you, though. I think that if he didn't forget who he was, the corner wasn't helping him remember. How about that? Nobody was telling you.
I agree.
You know, there was more or less like, okay, it's okay, we're going to be all right. You're okay, but what the hell does that mean?
Right.
Give him instructions to go forward to stop what is happening. Don't just keep telling me, it's all right, we're all right, we're still in the champ. Nobody needs to hear that. Also, too, get you some damn in-swell. I'm telling you.
We should have learned that 25 years ago, shouldn't we?
Right. I've been watching boxing forever. The little plastic bags with the ice in it doesn't work, bro. Please, somebody.
There's a big balloon that you put on somebody's side.
Right. Let's teach a course, man. The metal works, bro. It's a reason.
Metal works.
I was like, how many bouts have I seen this? And then you expect the eye to go down. It's not going anywhere, bro. Putting ice on there with a big bag doesn't help.
It's funny because what we've talked about a few times is it's a team thing. And sometimes when you see a fighter who's got his dad in the corner and his dad's like, okay, I'm treating you like a man, but at this particular point in time, boy, I told you, and it kicks in. When you have 3 belts and you've been put up on this pedestal, and all of your country, all the Commonwealth, all of everybody says, the next thing is once you get past this guy, then you're looking for unification against these guys. Mm-hmm. Is there a point where you tune out the corner and the corner may not be good enough to get you there? Because it's like if you're the pit crew chief in a car race and you're on like, yeah, you need to go faster. You need to go faster. That helps. How am I supposed to do that? You know, Give me some actual explanation on what you want me to do or what I should be doing. Well, you're doing fine. You're okay. Just keep doing what you're doing. And they said me in the face. You know, I got that advice at the job once. I went, yep, okay, it's time to leave there. But it's the idea of what's going on. And it doesn't seem to me that the whole team was going in the right direction.
It looked like they didn't expect this either.
Right.
And they didn't know what exactly to do. And you know, I do this too much, but because I admire these two men so much. I always will think of Virgil Hunter and Andre Ward. Because, you know, these guys were like father and son.
Right.
When Andre Ward was in deep doo-doo against Kovalev in the first fight, he got knocked down in the first round. Charles was there. Didn't look good. Virgil Hunter was really letting him have it. And we talked about it later, and he said, look, every fighter's different. I can get on him because he's not going to get mad at me. He's going to listen. Even after all his success, he's still going to listen. And Virgil Hunter said, you got to do more. You got to start going to the body. Look, you're losing. He was telling him, he said, you're not doing okay. You're losing. You are losing.
Yeah.
It was the best inspirational speech that I'd seen. I mean, I was watching it going, because I had seen them butt heads a little bit when they're sparring, and, you know, Andre get a little stubborn about something, and Virgil Hunter just shake his head at him. But he wasn't saying anything. He was just listening. And then, you know what? Started to do it. So here's a guy that was this undefeated, great fighter. That great thing, Andre Ward was a great fighter. Virgil Hunter is a great trainer to me, at least with him, because they understood each other. It was like, and this is total speculation. I have no idea if this is true, but it's almost like if the trainer said anything negative to Joshua, that would either make him even feel worse.
Right.
So you can't tell him the truth. You got to tell him, I mean, you're doing fine. I've seen other trainers, I'm like, what do you mean he's doing fine? He's lost 8 rounds in a row. Right. And I think that if it was me, I would want my trainer to be honest with me. Tell me, look, I feel like, am I losing? Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do to counter this? Not, just keep going out there and doing the same thing. Charles, you made a good point, too. Joshua did rally in the middle rounds. You know how he rallied? Because he stopped trying to knock out Usyk. He just was hitting him with punches. He was scoring. You know, and he got away from that and started to load up again. Then Usyk would just pop him. So he did find a way to score. But his corner, back to what we were talking about, Frank, his corner, I think his corner let him down too. I don't, there was, unlike Usyk's corner where they're telling him, stick with the plan, it's working, you're winning. Okay, it's easier when you're winning, obviously. But the reason you sit there for a minute is not only to rest, it's that you get some help. That's why they're saying all these things to you.
You've got a coach, right?
They did not coach, you know, they say coach him up.
Yep.
They did not. They did not help him a bit. I remember, I think it was the start of the 4th round or something. I'll be off in just a second. Joshua looked over across the ring. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe it was his dad or something who's at us, and he went, it's cool. It's cool. I got this. And I thought, hey, Jay, you ain't got this. What are you talking about? So, you know, people, you got to have somebody real in there, like our show. You got to have a real guy in there saying, no, you know, what you're doing is not right. What you're doing is not working. Gotta try something else.
Well, Charles, I'm gonna segue or flip it to another one of our favorite things. It reminds me of, are you the trainer that has Doug O'Neill from 3 years ago, that has a horse, and you have a horse and a jockey, and you're all on the same page? Or are you Todd Pletcher, who has 3 horses over in this track, 5 horses that track, over there, and you're the CEO, but when it comes time to saddle the horse, you're there? Because I'm thinking of Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart would not have let this happen to any of his fighters, even though he wasn't always with his fighters at all times.
Great example.
Because he has that kind of cachet that it's whenever he's with them in the gym or in the ring or whatever, it's like, man, it's here. And you're paying attention to what he said. I almost got the feeling that it was Joshua's corner was like, well, who's running camp? Who's running stuff? Is it the guy that's got the money coming in, or is it people that runs? I could be wrong about that. I really don't know. But from what I saw in the corner, I'm like, you guys didn't take charge. Like you said, John, it's almost like you're afraid to offend the guy that you're supposed to be the guy that tells him what's what. Yep. So Charles, is it, and I know this is a little bit off the field, but we're going to segue into the next thing. Who has that advantage? Because it's time to move on to that. The next big thing, which should have been a continuation of this. Who has the advantage corner-wise, you think, between Fury and Wilder?
Oh, wow. Woo, you did go there, didn't you? Wow.
Didn't think I was coming out of that with that, did you?
Yeah, no. Because I'm sitting there going like, are we?
Where the hell is he going?
Charles was teeing it up. He was teeing it up.
Because I'm sitting there going like, what corner is he going to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're 4 corners, right? We playing North Carolina basketball.
Yeah. Phil Ford's coming at you.
It's going to be Perkins. It's going to be Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Or Kenny Smith.
I was going Phil Ford the whole way.
Oh, yeah, I know you were. Or Michael. Or Michael.
At least Jimmy Black, right?
Or Michael Korn.
Michael Korn, yeah.
There you go. Anyway, but no, wow. Right now, I'd have to say Fury, man. And I say that because of the fact that Fury's corner's proven. I mean, you got Sugar. Sugar came in. Sugar helped you make the change. They went right after it. They had a plan. They executed it. A lot of excuses as to why his opponent wasn't able to do something. But they're sitting back going, told you. But when you look on the side of Wilder's situation, bringing in a former opponent.
Malik Scott.
Yes, bringing in Malik to try to help him out. And maybe he is a wizard because we just said it about something else about basketball, that some of the best performers or athletes may not be the best coaches.
Right.
You know, and so not being on that level, maybe he is a great coach. And according to Wilder, he is. But until you get into the ring and we'll see if it works, then we'll be able to diagnose it. But right now, I would clearly have to say Fury because it's proven. I mean, I can speculate. You know, like you said, you can lift all the weights you want to. Telling somebody else that you can lift all the weights you want to. You can prepare all you want to. But then if the game time comes and then you get tight, we won't know that until you get into the ring. We won't know all of the hard work if it really pays off. So right now, to answer your question, my answer will be Fury's corner.
Well, because I think, John, what we're seeing, or at least this is the fight where it's going to be all of the factors, all of the things that come into play. It's not just going to be one thing or another. And when you're looking at, and again, maybe they needed a change in Wilder's camp. Maybe Brillen wasn't getting it done. Maybe there were reasons for that. Who knows? But when you're looking at something new, now granted, it didn't happen 3 weeks ago. He's been there for a while. But it's like, I'm looking at something that when it comes down to it, round 4, round 7, whose voice is being heard and whose voice is being tuned out? Whereas when we saw Fury, it was all attention. You need to do this, got it. You need to do that, got it. So is this corner change going to make that much of a difference, or is it going to be the same old down the road?
It's hard to say because it'd be like, you guys, I don't know how you guys are outside of the real box. It'd be like, Frank, you training Charles. I mean, if you were his trainer, okay, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
See,
yeah, that happened.
This is my point. Would Charles listen to what you're saying?
Oh, he'd listen, but it doesn't mean he would do it.
It's a nitty gritty, but would he go out and do what?
No,
I think Charles would go, I got this. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you on that. So it looks like, from what I've seen, the cameras, right? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It looks like, because they've known each other for years. I mean, Wilder knocked out Malik years ago, and they've been friends for years and years and years. Very suspicious knockout, but that's another show. But and actually, too, they've had an additional few months to get ready after the COVID thing with Fury.
Right.
So that might end up helping with that relationship. I don't know that. You know what? I think Wilder will listen to Malik because, but now whether he'll do what he says or can do what he says, I think he will hear him. And Breland didn't get let go because he wasn't being a good trainer. He got let go because they had a disagreement and he threw in the towel. That was what it was. And then they had words. I mean, it wasn't that he wasn't getting Wilder ready and everything. And I don't know how Mark Breland would have dealt with a second fight with Fury, but he saw everything we did. And one thing I like that Malik Scott is doing I've been watching these little shows is he's been watching the tape a lot with Wilder. Mm-hmm. So they will definitely have a plan going in. It's just, can it be executed to the point where Fury goes, okay, well, you knew I was going to do that. Now I'm going to do this. Now, what are you going to do? Yikes. So yeah, Fury definitely has the advantage in his corner. He's got some Stewart blood in his corner, and Sugar looks like a chip off the old block there, and a lot of respect. That's the thing. The fighter has to respect the trainer. If he doesn't respect the trainer, and some of them have that aura about them where you respect them, like Robert Garcia, like Freddie Roach. You're going to listen just because they've had so much success. You also want them to be, and they're real. Those guys are real. If you've ever heard them in the corner, no, you're not doing good. The famous Angelo Dundee to Sugar Ray Leonard, you're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it. Got to get out there. You got to be faster. He's saying that to Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Gold medalist, undefeated. You got to be able to do that. And I think you might be right, Frank, but you said, I think that they were afraid to say that to Joshua. Yeah. And I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure. But because I don't remember them saying much to him when Ruiz knocked him down and everything. They were just kind of sticking with the same thing. And it's like, you guys got to, and they got to know that they're not helping him by telling him it's going to be okay. Yeah, it's going to be okay in your life, but it's not going to be okay in a fight. I need something here. I need something from you. Give me something. And it, like Charles has said about Floyd Mayweather when he got hit with those shots, and then Roger came back and said, okay, now we're gonna. You need somebody that knows you, knows what you want to hear, or not what you want to hear, what you need to hear, and does it for the best benefit of you, not themselves. And I just got the feeling that Joshua's corner was like, well, look, we don't want to offend him because we don't want to lose our jobs. He might replace us like Wilder did. We're getting a lot of money here being the main guy. So that's not a good mixture of a team, because you can't. That's like fighting defensive. That's like you're trying not to lose. And I actually think it makes sense, because that's how Eddie Hearn has been promoting Joshua, knowing fully well that he's a flawed heavyweight. Right. I'm going to protect him. I'm going to give him the best fights he can to win. But I don't really want to put him in there with a guy that can beat him, because I'm afraid it's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. So it actually all makes sense.
Well, Charles, as the boxing historian that you are, I'm going to ask you for a couple of things here. And because as John's talking, I'm thinking it through in my head, and I'm hoping you might be able to come up with better than I do. Can you think of anyone who was on the level that we're talking about now, that had a trainer that was either not a part of the family or had been with them since he was a kid, that just kind of came in out of the blue? The thing that always comes to me, and you were talking about the Enswell, is the Aaron Snowell thing with the
if I say the balloon.
Yeah. It's like, who's running the show here?
Well, yeah.
When things go bad or don't go well, who's running the show here? And I'm thinking, Goody and the guys with Marvin.
The brothers.
I'm thinking Angelo Dundee. Well, Sugar Ray, Angelo Dundee's available. Yeah, I'll listen to him. That's cool. Ray Arcel. I'm thinking of some of these guys who go, they have the cachet, Emmanuel Stewart, or they've been with them, Jack Mosley. They've been with these guys since, infancy. And there's a synergy there, or there's a respect there. And I'm trying to think of the guy that just kind of went, hey, I'm going to pick this guy as my trainer because I'm good enough to train myself. Does it usually turn out bad, or am I just only thinking of certain examples there?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when Jimmy Johnson left the Dallas Cowboys, right? And then Barry Switzer comes in, and it's like I could have coached them. So when you're on a certain level, I think it goes that way. But I think usually you need to have somebody that has a clue, though. I mean, even if they're not a top-notch guy, they got to be in the trenches. And I guess my question right now with Malik Scott is, if they get in the deep waters in championship rounds, I'm not sure if he's ever been that route. What can he tell Wilder? And that's something. I mean,
right.
Either if he's not been there, as a trainer, have you been there? Right? One thing Mark Breland could say to him, hey, man, this is how it is. We're getting close. He can give you some championship flavor. Not sure if Malik Scott has that. But again, to your point, you wonder if Wilder needs that. I mean, maybe he's like, I got this. I'm not worried about it. I'm comfortable about it. But the other part, too, it does help to have a trainer that knows, because a trainer that really knows, or even if he doesn't have the championship cachet, right, as far as like the flavor, as far as not being there, you have to know the sport. You have to know what works. And what I mean by that is, you look at Emmanuel Stewart taking on, with the Klitschko, taking on with Klitschko. Klitschko was already successful, but it took Emmanuel Stewart to come in and go like, hey, yeah, you are good, but I can make you better.
Right. I know this better than you, right?
Right. A la Floyd Mayweather Sr. with Oscar De La Hoya. De La Hoya was already decorated, but Floyd Mayweather Sr. made him better, right, to the point where he was winning. You're like, well, we got such a great thing going. I'm going to fight your son. You want to train me? He was like, he backed up. And I was like, yeah, that never happened. Everybody like, oh, yeah, well, I was like, nah. But it's just a point of being there, understanding it, and commanding the respect because of what you've shown and what you've done. And that's where I think a guy like Wilder, hopefully it works out with Malik Scott, but having somebody that really knows and really has been there, can really turn it around. Because I think, last but not least here for me, the proof is in the pudding with Wilder. If Malik Scott can pull this off and shows him this way, oh, that's my guy. But if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, now what? I think you need to have somebody in this corner that can literally, we have a plan, we're going to implement the plan, we're going to make it happen, and we're going to complete the plan. And he's all in. Because I think that's who Wilder is. He wants to believe in you. But like, wow, I mean, Breland, one loss, bro. And he threw the towel in. So let's just say this. He won't have to worry about Malik Scott throwing the towel in. If you're going to fall on this sword, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be on him.
Well, and there's that of where has the trainer been and what has he done, but also it's that connection with, whatever is going on. And I think what happened there was that, and it might be an excuse, but Wilder said, Breland did not have my best interest in heart. He had his best interest in heart, which is bold, but I can see where it's coming from because he wasn't invested in the guy. But, John will use the Mickey Ward reference. Dickie Eklund wasn't going to let anything happen to Mickey Ward. They both knew that. Enzo Calzaghe wasn't going to let anything happen to Joe Calzaghe. They may have never trained on that level before, but I'm a part of you. We are going at this together. And I think there's something to be said for that. So not just I haven't been on this level before, but I'm also a part of what we do. So with this new thing with Malik Scott, is that something that is going to be part of the glue, or is it going to be part of the fracture?
Again, it's a mystery. I think Wilder is happy with it right now, so that's a good thing. He didn't want to have those kind of doubts in his mind.
Right.
But I'll tell you a little secret. Before he hired Malik Scott and he let Breland go, I was really hoping that he would hire one guy that just does not get the credit for in my view, he's a great trainer. He just doesn't get it. That's Buddy McGirt. Buddy McGirt is a great trainer. Every fighter he touches improves. Look what he did to Gotti. You're talking about Mickey Ward.
Sure, right.
He turned Gotti's career was over. he came in and told Gotti, man, you know, you can box. You don't have to go in there and do a thrill a minute. And he's like, nah, I like it. I'm the trainer. You're going to do what I say. I mean, look what he did. He could have, if he could have worked with Wilder, and I'd really be excited, because I think if anyone can get more out of Wilder than he's ever got out of himself, it's going to be Buddy McGirt. He wouldn't be his friend. He'd be his trainer.
Right.
He'd be telling him, you can't do that, bro. You're going to get knocked out in the second round this time. You can't walk like that. You got to do something else. And Malik Scott's trying. So I think it's totally up in the air with Malik Scott. I really understand why Wilder did it, is he wanted to be comfortable. But then we might be in a few weeks going, no, Deontay, you needed to be uncomfortable going into this fight. You really needed somebody telling you, look, man, you do that, you get knocked out again. We got to come up with another plan here to counter what this big British goofball is going to do. So it could end up, most of the time when you have your friend in your corner, it doesn't turn out well.
Right.
Doesn't turn out well. And I want it to turn out well, because I think I told you, I talked to Malik Scott a number of times, great guy. And all the bad publicity Deontay Wilder gets, even Roy Jones or somebody said, yeah, I don't like him as a person. You know, off the camera, he's not that guy that says things that make you go. He's actually a really funny guy. So I think there's a part of it is an act. But okay, we're not going to go into all the excuses. But yeah, exactly. So I just wish, back to Buddy, I just wish he had hired Buddy, just because Buddy, I think, would have been a perfect fit for him. But, you know, they've had 6 months to get ready. And Usyk said, back in for a second, Usyk said, I've been training for this fight because of the pandemic and everything for 9 months.
Yeah, so I'm ready.
I've seen his kids in 9 months. So they've had probably right around the same amount of time to get ready. So they better not say they weren't ready, because I think they've exhausted everything. Maybe that's good. Maybe that means that no matter who's in the corner, Wilder's going to come in about as good as he can be against Fury, and he's got to get Fury to back up. That's the key to this fight. He's got to make him respect him a little more than he did in the second fight.
Well, that was later. That's the segue to this. We've got a little time to put this one together, but let's end this show with a couple of ideas. Charles, what are because we always talk about styles make fights make styles, blah, 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 blah. And that's an intangible. What are some of the intangible things that maybe we aren't looking at as a group of people that could make a difference in this fight? One or two, just say, if this turns this way, that turns that way.
Well, I think it might be obvious, but I think it should be said, is the fact that Wilder has to be first. A lot of times he waits too late to engage. He reacts instead of being forward, coming forward. I think that's major right there, because of the fact that even if it doesn't have to be, he has to be the world's greatest boxer or anything like that, but if he just comes out first and is more aggressive, I think that's going to help his campaign. No matter whatever it is, I think that's clearly one of the keys. He has to find a way to come off and be first.
Is that just to score points, or is it to dictate pace as well?
Well, I mean, it could be both. I mean, first is first. So, I mean, you could say points, but if you're coming off first, it's just a factor that if you just say it's points, I think you're doing it a disservice, right? Because you can try to be first and score points, but you got to do it overall. So then that where it kind of evens it out, right? Because let's say, for instance, first 3 rounds, he waits. And then all of a sudden he wants to be first because you're trying to get points because you don't lose. That's why you got to be first early on. So I think overall, in general, he just had to find a way to do that, because what we had seen before, particularly in the last fight, the second fight, because he was smothered and he couldn't hit Fury because Fury was moving around a little bit, then he wasn't able to hit him. And again, he was reacting, but he never really came up on him. He allowed, Fury to dictate the action.
Okay, so that's one thing, and I agree. That makes totally perfect sense. That in order to dictate how the fight is going to go, he has to dictate how it goes, and that's good enough first. What's something else, John, that you see that is going to have to be very important on either side?
Well, it looks like from what Malik is working with Deontay is on his footwork. And I think because Deontay really has not had any footwork, he just tries to maneuver you into a position and hits you with the bomb squad. And I think he's trying to make him a little, here it comes, because I heard the word during the Usyk fight, clever or crafty. I'm sorry, crafty. And you can't make a home run hitter into a doubles hitter though, you know, but you can make him a little smarter about what he's doing. Maybe have a little plan. So I think footwork is important because you got to remember Wilder probably come in around 220. Fury's going to come in around what 280. So that's 60 pounds. And it's not like Jack Dempsey against Jess Willard, which was like 85 pounds.
And you're supposed to be the bigger hitter.
They're the bigger hitter, and he's taller than you, and so you know he's imposing his bulk. The only way I could say it on you. So you got to be able to counter that. So I think what you said is right, though. I think his jab and getting off first is extremely important. If Wilder can throw a few punches to the body in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And make Fury hesitate just a little bit. Where he's like, oh, okay, wait, this isn't the same guy from the other fight. And you'll love this, Frank. This is like all the way back to what we talked about in the first fight. Or the first part of the show. He's going to be thinking about the second fight. But if you remember the first fight, Wilder didn't win that fight, but he knocked Fury down twice.
Right.
And he looked like he knocked him out to win a dramatic fight. It was incredible. So it was competitive in the first fight. So Wilder has to just try to wipe out what happened in the second and then and try to counter. But instead of just standing there when Fury comes, move around a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know, move around. Make him think a little. Oh, he's moving around a little bit. It's like if you're playing one-on-one with a guy and he's all right hand and suddenly he goes to his left. You go, where did that come from? Something to make him pause a little because he's not gonna outsmart Fury. No way. There's no way. Wilder's all about power. So he's gonna have to have a little where he can. All it take is for Fury to pause for a minute and then Wilder can let the right hand go. That's all it's gonna take. Not that it's easy. So don't think it's easy. I'm just saying that all he needs is just a little bit of a pause. So I think they've got that in mind, and that's what I need. And also, yeah, be more aggressive. Throw more punches. Get off first. Don't let him beat you up from pillar to post. You know, make him stop. Hit him with the jab. Got to be busier. Wilder might be like Joshua in a way, and we don't know this for sure, but Joshua was always worried about his stamina. He even said that after the fight. Well, my stamina was good. It's like, so he's got some doubts in his head. So he's got to be able to do something that he hasn't really done, and it's a lot to ask for. But as we know in boxing, definitely possible.
Okay, let's leave it at this. We have an interim that we don't normally have for this. So what may happen in the next week and a half or so what should we be looking for, Charles? That I know there's no preseason game before the actual event. But what's going to happen in the next week or so is just to make you go, bring that extra money to the window, that kind of thing. Or what could, I should say.
Well, I think if you ever see the guys, though, I think that's key. I think the appearance, because that's going to show you who's in shape, who's not, or who looks heavier.
Or what kind of shape, right?
Right. Is Fury, what kind of shape is Fury in? I mean, is Deontay Wilder looking really fresh and whatnot? But I think it plays a part because I think early on, the question was a lot of people were saying, do we really know is Fury in shape? And they think the COVID situation was stall time or whatever to allow him to get back in shape because is he training? And I think that Wilder's been training since he lost. But I think Fury is like, okay, now I got a little bit more time. But I think definitely the physical shape of the individuals prior, when we see them next, prior to the fight, can make a difference.
John, what will we see or hear that'll make do you think one way or another?
So, you're going to get the press conference, and Fury's going to be doing his thing, talking about him, knock him out in 2 rounds. And see, unlike a lot of people who complained about what Wilder did when he had the headphones, I thought that was smart. See, I thought that was good. I was thinking, bro, I'd have done the same thing. I don't want to hear his crap. I don't want to hear any of his garbage. I'm focused on what I'm there to do. I don't want to listen to this guy who I obviously don't like.
Right.
And if I was Wilder, I wouldn't like him either. I'm so tired of his clownish show. I would just, so let Malik talk for me. Malik is good at that. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. Oh, well, you got to be talking. I don't care. It's an individual sport. I can do what I want. So it's going to be interesting, answering your question, how they do in the next press conference, even though we can pretty much predict it. Wilder's totally focused. And then the weigh-in is always interesting to me. Anything can happen at a weigh-in, but I think Wilder will be in the best shape of his life. I think Charles was right about that. I think Fury was probably not in the best shape a few months ago. Now he'll be in a good shape. The question is, how much is he going to weigh?
Right.
That's what I want to know. But hopefully they'll have a plan to try to counter that. Depends on what kind of athlete Deontay Wilder is, and I don't know about that. He doesn't look very fast. If he was faster like Usyk, then he would be able to counter the big, heavy Fury and try to tire him out. But that's what I'm going to be listening to the words, looking at the body language, and then next Friday when they weigh in, then we'll see how they look. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean we know what's going to happen. The one time I remember that we got a feel for what was going to happen was when Canelo fought Golovkin the second time. Canelo was all pissed off because Golovkin had the audacity to say that he took steroids. So after the weigh-in, usually they do, but Canelo went right at Golovkin. I mean, walked for like Ronda Rousey used to do, walked right at, and you could tell he was pissed. And even Golovkin kind of pulled back. He's so mad about it.
Right.
You did get busted with steroids. What do you get so pissy about? He was saying, this is how I'm going to fight you. I'm not going to move like I did in the first fight. I'm going to fight you pure Mexican style. I'm going to be right in your face. And that's what he did. So whether that plays out in this fight, I doubt. I think Wilder will probably still do a lot of what he does. Going to be interesting to see the little dynamics of the teams, see how Malik is doing as we lead up to this. And I told you, I've been looking forward to this fight for months, unlike some people. So it's got a lot of intangibles.
Well, I think it's nice that we're going to have next week's show to really get into it. So we're going to leave it at this. We saw something here that upset the apple cart. And now that, and whether the rematch clause is in effect or not, whatever happens.
It is.
We have the now what happens? How does this affect that? Or how does this next fight affect what happens here? So look, we saw an upset that maybe we didn't see. Maybe we'll see an upset if one will call that next week. So we'll take a look at it and see. Gentlemen, thanks again. And this is Real Boxing Talk, being real and talking boxing.